Hi, and welcome to Theological Perspectives. Today, I wanted to briefly touch on the subject of choices. Firstly, I think choices are severely misunderstood. I often hear people say, especially when having to answer for something that they have done or something that they have neglected to do, that they didn't have a choice. For example, you'll hear someone say, I didn't have a choice. I had to do this. Or, I didn't have a choice. I had to do that. Well, the hard truth of the matter is that we always have a choice in this world. Even when it seems like we don't, there is, in fact, a choice to be made. In the most extreme of examples, because we've all heard this one on the playground when we were young, the infamous, if a gun is held to one's head, one might say, well, I didn't have a choice. There was a gun to my head. But again, the fact of the matter is, even in this fictitious childhood example, that you did make a choice. You chose to live. You could very well have said, no, I will not do what the gunman wants, thereafter ending your story here on earth. Or you can choose to do whatever is told to you by the man with the weapon. The point is, there's always a choice. In the story of Adam and Eve, in the first book of the Pentateuch, Genesis chapter 3, they made choices. Eve could have chosen not to listen to the serpent when being tempted by the apple. Adam could have chosen not to partake in the fateful meal. But they both made a choice to consume the fruit. Subsequently, when God confronted them about it, they could have chosen to confess and repent. Yes, we did it. We're guilty. We're sorry. It will never happen again. Please forgive us. But that's not the choice that they made. Instead, they chose to pass blame. Adam passes blame on Eve and God when he says, it was the woman that you put here. And Eve passes the buck by blaming the serpent. Well, the serpent told me to do it. This was a choice that they made, a choice that led to their expulsion. Even God here makes a choice. He could have chosen to wipe them out. Instead, he chose to expel them from Eden and for the rest of their lives, make them work by the sweat of their brow. Another example, also in Genesis, this one in chapter 4, was when Cain, driven by jealousy and rage, slays his brother Abel. He didn't have to make that decision. And he certainly didn't have to choose to get snippy with God when he says, am I my brother's keeper? Or show no remorse whatsoever, instead wondering about his own fate when God exiles him, saying, my punishment is more than I can bear. Cain also had a choice to either take his brother's life or appreciate and accept the differences between them. And when it was time to answer for his crime, he had every opportunity, like his parents, to confess and repent. He, however, made a choice. He chose to concern himself with his own selfish feelings. Some of us, veering away from the morbid at this point, are blessed to be able to make great choices, like Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jesus. While others, more in line with most of us, are on an incessant roller coaster of both good and bad choices, like Jacob, who, in Genesis chapter 27, made the decision to deceive his father, Isaac, into giving him his older brother, Esau's firstborn blessing, later on ending up in a wrestling match with God, thereafter being named or renamed Israel, and becoming a better version of himself. So here we see a perfect example of being able to redeem ourselves from the poor choices we make by fully repenting and altering them. Understanding that this would shift the direction of our own personal spirit and relationship with God, not expecting the world to necessarily forgive us, at least for the most part. Now, this is not a lecture about good or bad choices, what is good and what is bad. This is more about acknowledging the fact that there are choices, and there is no absolute answer. That is, there is never a time when there is no choice at all. And it's important to understand that to make a choice is voluntary. We have the free will to make these kinds of choices. That's what I'm talking about here today. Remember, free will was given to us by God. According to Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. And this wasn't just relating to outward appearance, but inward as well. These are anthropomorphic feelings of joy, sorrow, anger, happiness, and choice. God possesses all of these, and made in his image, so do we. We have an ability to handle every situation the way in which we see fit. God didn't want unfeeling beings who blindly and without freedom worship him. He wanted us to choose him, to choose to have a relationship with him. It is only through this choice that he can truly know who is his. Well, that's all I have for now, but please continue to tune in for the daily Bible in a Year videos. I really appreciate all the comments, likes, and subscriptions that I've received, and I look forward to continue to doing the videos with you for the rest of the year. Until then, have a great day.